Hey guys, True Grit Scott, both Peak Saws and BLUESAWS.com. Hope everybody's doing alright, and I hope this angle's not miserable. Had a customer, did a bulletproof 440 for him 2, maybe 3 years ago. The only reason I'm saying it might be 3 is because of the sticker that's on there was an older one. And he's been using it this whole time, and he hit me. He's having a problem with it being a little bit hard starting. So I said, yeah, send it down. He doesn't have the time to look at it. He's too busy, and really his explanation's a good one. I could figure it out, but why am I going to spend all my time doing it when you'll do it twice as fast and you monkey with them every day? And it kind of brought up a good conversation. I've always been a fella who will spend $500 to fix a $50 thing just because I want to know how to do it. But what I'm starting to find as I get older is sometimes instead of doing the ball joints and whatever the job is, there's some jobs maybe you let the professional do it because he could do it twice as fast. And not only that, a lot of times they know something. Like I work on my my furnace, and you know, I'll clean it, filters, nozzles, you know, whatever. But once in a while it pays for me to have the furnace guy come out to do it because he'll put a tester in there, measure the, I guess it's an oxygen mix in the exhaust, and he can adjust it and change things. So every couple of years I'll have the pro guy come out and, you know, spend the $300 to have him clean it, maintain it, whatever else, because he can do things that I can't do. I can do the regular stuff, but anyhow, it was a good conversation, and it's a lesson I need to learn to pay people. Like, don't rip the whole truck apart. Maybe pay somebody this time. Anyhow, I just unwrapped the saw 20 minutes ago, and the first thing I noticed on pulling the recoil was that it was hanging a little bit. Alright, pull the clutch cover off. Yeah, clutch is spinning. If your clutch is spinning, or your drive sprocket is spinning when you're pulling the recoil, you have a problem. It's a failed spring in the clutch or a failed bearing. This guy had 3 failed springs. Looked like 2, but when I popped the clutch out, all 3 of them fell out. So I cleaned it up real good. I used my, you know, refillable spray can with gasoline. Clean that out spotless. Not that you have to, but that gets super dirty. So it's clean it out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pop. I have highway springs here, and I'm going to talk to you about clutch springs. On the clutches are actually the same on a G366 all the way up to a G466. So a Stihl MS361 all the way up to a Stihl MS460. The clutch is the same on all those saws. So on a 361, I don't have clutch spring failures. But when you start doing a little bit of performance work to 440s and 460s, I have failures. And in my opinion, this is an area where steel springs, like the OEM steel springs, are better than the aftermarket ones. I don't have those fail as often. I don't have steel springs on hand, so I'm going to pop in the highway springs, which have been pretty good. Again, not as good as the OEM springs, but if he gets 3 years out of them running it, and it's a pretty peppy saw, whatever, and you guys can argue with me and say, hey, he'd get 10 years out of the OEM springs. Well, I don't have them on hand, and I got to ship this saw back to him, so we're getting the highway springs. I'm going to pause you guys, and I'll zoom you in on how I replace the springs. And we've talked about this before, but I'll mention it again. I got my little puller tool I made. That's just a chainsaw file. Hit it with the torch, bend, you know, pull out the tip, curve it, and you have a nice little puller, and we'll see. I usually wind up cursing as I do these springs sometimes, but we'll see how it goes. We'll zoom in, and you'll hear me curse because I can't get the springs in where it'll go smooth. We'll see. Okay, guys, there's the highway part number if you need it. And I got my springs, and I swear I get these from Highway and they're copper coated sometimes, copper color coated sometimes, and sometimes they are silver. I don't know if I have an opinion on which ones are better. Now I lock this in the vise, and sometimes it works real well for me, sometimes it doesn't, and there's probably an easier way to do this. Oh, I missed the hole. And this is just the way that I do it. I'm not saying it's the right way, and I'm not saying somebody doesn't have a better way. This is just the way I know to do it. And I think I've experimented a bunch of different ways trying to do it, and I think this is the way I like to do it. And I know some guys do it right on the saw. They don't even take it off, but I want it to look in there and clean out. And one of the things is, if your springs break and you got little pieces of spring in there, I want to make sure they're not behind there, and you put it back together, and who knows what disaster that may cause at some point. And there's that little, like I said, you could see the file teeth on it, and I just draw that out a little bit, that point sometimes, and I think I actually broke this one before. And one of the tricks I'll tell you guys is when you heat these up with the torch, they're high carbon metal, so it's borderline whether you need to dunk it in oil, not water, because water is going to make it too brittle. You could dunk it in some you have a thing of vegetable oil or old bar oil or new bar oil for all it matters, and cool it off. You don't want to make these too hard, because that high carbon steel will harden up and it'll get brittle. So you want it to be tougher than brittle, and you'll wind up playing with that a minute, and it's not a big deal. Even if you don't do it, I think the steel's tough enough to hold it. But sometimes if it's not, I'll heat it up again, cherry, and then quench it in some oil. But we mess with stuff like that a lot, so it's not a big deal. But again, you probably just use bar oil and it's good enough. You're not making some high-end knife for somebody. There you go, popped in clutch springs. I'll pause you. Okay guys, we got that tuned up. Not a lot to do in clutch springs. It's, diagnosing it. And I didn't even put fuel in this saw yet to start it and see what any other issues were. That was the first thing I saw, and very likely that's the only problem. Like I said, the saw is only 2 or 3 years old, so I don't expect a lot of problems. The worm gear looks good, and I'll put it back together now. Then I can put some fuel in it, run it, and give it a real good go through. But before I did this had to be done. Clutches are reverse threaded, so lefty tighty. And one of the things I'll warn you about, and I think I've warned you before about it, is when you use the Ooga Dooga on them, these are sintered metal, and sometimes these little feet will chip off. You might be able to still use the clutch. I've never done it personally, so I don't know. As soon as I see a little piece of metal break off a clutch, it's garbage to me. But that sintered metal doesn't like certain vibrations, and what's really weird, and you can think I'm crazy, is that, no, and it's not that one. This one here, this DeWalt Ooga Doogas or vibrates at a different speed than this Milwaukee. And this one will always break those off, whereas the Milwaukee tends to not. So you might be better off plugging it and not Ooga Dooging it at all. I'm going to give it a quick hit, and hopefully we don't. I know that wasn't much of a hit. I could also tighten that up, and I've told you guys this before. You can tighten up a loose clutch. If you're having a problem, your clutch came loose for some reason, it wasn't on tight, and you're hitting the throttle and it spun itself off. You could always hit your chain brake, hit the throttle, and it'll tighten right back on there. And that's how I'll finish tightening this one, because I'm going to be back in playing with this, although maybe it doesn't have any other problems. I don't know. So that's it, and I'll give you an update on this one, because I don't think until I run it, I don't know anything going on. I know it has compression, and I know that those clutch springs were bad, so we'll go from there. Anyhow, just a quick video on replacing clutch springs. True Grit Scott, Bulletproof Saws and BLUESAWS.com. Thanks for watching. I left the interrogation light on. It was in my eyes the whole time. So if I look blinky, that's why. Be safe, fellas.